Cooper Castleberry. We were in Morgantown, West Virginia. It was one of those great Morgantown days. Got a little bit of rain. Actually, it turned out to be better than some of the times that I've been up there. And beforehand, I was taking pictures of him with his crew because he thought that might be the last time that we crossed paths with him as an official, talking about leaving field officiating. And I haven't had a chance to talk to him since, so I'm not going to be like an attorney here. I'm asking a question I don't know the answer to. Uh, what is your status? And by the way, good morning to start off with, Cooper
Good morning.
Castleberry. And yeah, what's your status?
Well, they've taken me off the field, and I was hoping to go to replay, which did not happen. But they want me to be an observer and a grader and somewhat of a trainer. And so that at this point is my role. And with this coronavirus and everything shut down, we met in February at our winter meeting, but we've not done anything since. And as you know, all the scrimmages were canceled, and I had planned to go to some scrimmages and practice observing, and that didn't get to happen. So everything is just up in the air right now. I just hope we play.
Yeah, I do too, and that's why I asked the question. I mean, when we talked, you were pretty certain that you were going up to the booth in one way or the other. And by the way, we got DeFee on tomorrow, and he is also leaving. That's the thing. You guys are leaving me. This is starting to make me feel.
Well,
I'm starting to get a complex. You guys are leaving me.
and did you know Reggie's gone?
I didn't. I knew I saw Reggie work some of the XFL. What's Reggie doing?
Reggie is going to the Big Ten, and
Okay.
Eddie Shelton retired. So 4 white hat referees are that you have been used to seeing for a number of years will not be there.
You
It's
know,
going to be a
and
crazy year.
it will be. And here's the. I was about to use the term funny, but I'm going to go ahead and use the term sad. Because Dave Hunziker, our play-by-play voice, my listeners know this because I tell them every year when we go to clinic, and I also tell them about the officials and because I feel like I get to know you guys a little bit beyond just Saturday. Hey, how you doing? And and going, can I go to the coin toss? That kind of thing. Um, and here's the thing that is kind of a bummer for me is. I, it's a comfort level. To me, it's like, hey, there's my old friend Cooper Castleberry, or hey, there's Mike DeFee, or Reggie I've known forever. I mean, of the I tell you the guy that I'm worried about losing because I think he's got a chance to move up. Young official that I've gotten to know, referee white hat, Brandon Cruz, who I think's pretty
Yeah,
good.
and a lot of us were surprised that he didn't go to the NFL this year. And I just feel certain that will happen.
Well, here's the thing. Let's don't be sad about this because let's. And here's the other thing too. Let me ask you this: because of everything that's going on, there were no scrimmages, there was no spring football, so. And I don't know what's going on at the Big 12 office. I don't even pretend to know what's going on at the Big 12 office. But I tell you what, if we start this thing, is there a chance they say, "Hey Cooper, is the uniform still fit?" Because we need some veteran guys out there. Because like you just said, if Reggie's gone to the Big Ten, and Mike's going to be a trainer in the NFL, and you said Eddie Shelton's retiring, man, you kind of need a veteran out there, in my opinion.
Well, they have moved 2 guys up from the Mountain West Conference.
Mm-hmm.
A guy named Kevin Hassel, and he's
Yeah.
real good. He's been around for a while, just waiting for old guys like me to get out of the way so that he would have a shot. And there's another Brandon Cruz type that's coming up from the Mountain West named Mike Vanderveld. and he's really really good. And then Kevin Marr, who was in the Big 12 for several years. He was a line of scrimmage guy, wanted to be a referee, so they moved him to the Mountain West. And he got a chance to go to the Pac-12. And so he took that several years ago, but he has now come back to the Big 12. So he's a veteran referee, and I think you will
Yeah.
recognize him when you see him.
No, I know Kevin.
Oh, okay, okay. So he's
I
back.
that's good.
And
Well,
so but I wonder if the coaches are going to look out there and like you say, where is Mike? Where is Reggie? Where is Cooper? Where are these guys that I have been with for 20 years?
well, I don't know if Gundy's going to say it, but I'm sure going to say it. And I know Dave Hunziker is going to be the same way because it is going to be a vastly new group of people. Hey, let's get into this because a lot of our fans, all they know is on Saturdays, they either like the calls or don't like the calls based on how they go for the Cowboys. And whoever the white hat is out there, you're good or you're bad based on those calls. So they don't know as much about the officiating thing. But I want to get in first to the team, your team, and I know a bunch of your guys on your team. Scott Gaines is a good friend of mine from up in
Hmm.
Nebraska, and of course Jim Adams, from Manhattan, Kansas, and we actually, God, I'm trying to think. We saw him one week when you guys had K State, and
That's
he
right.
worked with a different crew down here for us because. And I see Jim. I say, Jim, where's your guys? Where's the gang? He goes, they're
Yeah.
working they're working K State. So I didn't realize his wife worked at the university, and he said, so I'm working this game down here. We traded umpires, but how close you get to that crew, and how much that's a team out there. That's your team, Cooper.
Yes, it is. And see, I have another one, Kelly Dieterding, whose daughter works
Yep.
at Texas Tech. So if we have Tech, we lose him. If we have K State, we lose Jim. And but it becomes it truly is another family because when you leave home on Friday morning, and you don't get back till Sunday, and you're with the same guys every weekend, week after week after week, and there's a lot of stress out there. There's a lot of nobody likes us because somebody's mad every snap, and so the seven guys that are out there with me on the 8-man crew, plus the two in the booth, the two replay guys. I mean, we just become extremely close, and it becomes a family out there. And you're not quite as comfortable when you do lose one of them, and somebody else is there, even though the person that's the replacement is as good as my replacement that day for Jim was just as good as Jim, but Jim is my guy, and every crew feels that way. Whoever Jim was working for that day, they're not as comfortable with him as their guy. So we all kind of rely on each other, and it becomes the average fan has no clue what we go through and when it starts and when it ends, because it's truly every day of the week something on football happens.
One of the things about your crew, the year we took the test at clinic, as groups, as teams, they assigned all the media guys to different teams, and I got assigned, fortunately, to. I think we aced it. I think we aced it and hit all the bonuses. It was pretty good, and so I got to see your crew. And here's one of the things that I noticed about your crew. Obviously, everybody takes this extremely serious. It's a serious process officiating a football game. But the one thing that I think is to me it's you got to be able to have fun with it. You got to be able to have fun with each other. Every once in a while poke at somebody, but everybody laughs together, not at somebody. And that's one of the things about your crew that I noticed. You guys have a camaraderie where somebody can say something and poke fun even at the head man, which is you, and you're like, okay, and everybody's laughing and the camaraderie with that group was so good. That's why I liked hanging with you guys.
Yeah, and you don't have that chemistry with every crew. And in fact, I've had crews. I had a crew. Oh gosh, probably back in I don't even know what year it was. Many years ago, and the chemistry was terrible. And it was the most miserable year of my life, and I literally considered retiring because I said, if this is the way it's going to be, then I don't want it anymore. But you live through that, and even the supervisor, who was Walt at the time, he recognized that the chemistry was not good, and so he broke that crew up and got us in a better situation. But I'll tell you,
Your
this crew that I ended up with, I've had great crews
yeah.
through the years, but this crew that I ended up with 2 years ago, when Greg and I talked, I said, if this is going to be my last year, I want to end my career with this crew. And so even though he made some changes with some crews, he did not change mine, and it was wonderful.
It was, and it was one of the best crews too. I mean, you guys had two of our games last year in Lubbock, Texas, and that was a meltdown day for our young quarterback. And then you had our game at West Virginia, like I mentioned. Both games, I remember Dave and I talking about it. Not a single, not a single complaint or hiccup at all with the officiating. Both were extremely. I thought the West Virginia game was a very well officiated game. So,
Well, thank you.
and it was a good
You
close
know,
game. You know,
when you walk away from a win and you get told that, hey, y'all did a good job. That, I mean, you appreciate it. Don't get me wrong. But when you
yeah,
walk away from a loss and the losing coach says we did a good job, that really carries a little more meaning, because he has a lot. A lot of times we get blamed for the loss, and I get that. I mean, I did this overall for 42 years, and in college football 25 years. So I get it, totally understand it, and I'm okay with it. But for instance, my last game was Wake Forest and Michigan State, and both coaches came to us after the game. In fact, the losing coach came onto our bus after the game to tell us that we were fair and we did a good job and how much he appreciated it. And it
and
makes you
I
feel
remember.
better.
Yeah, I remember watching that game too. That wasn't the easiest bowl game of the year to officiate either.
No,
So
if you to your listeners, if you can catch that on classic games, watch it, because it was a really good football game.
yes, it was. Um, what was oh, I know what I was going to say, along the lines of when losing, winning and losing coaches or fans or whoever says something to you. To this day, Burks. I think it's sometimes why Burks tries to avoid me is I always say, hey Greg, do you know you OSU was 4-0 the last four games you worked. We didn't want you to retire. You know, because we were money when you showed up. He
Well,
hates it when I say that. Hates it.
well, and coincidentally, when I went in to see the Michigan State coach on my last game, he said, "I'm really glad y'all are here." And I said, "Well, we're glad to be here too." And he said, "No, I've never lost a game where Big 12 officials were on the field," and he didn't lose
yeah.
that one.
Hey, I'll tell you a funny story just because you kind of know how maniacal that Hunziker and I are on the officiating game,
No,
and
not at all.
we're up we're no, we're up in the booth way before our Texas Bowl game in Houston against A&M, down at NRG, and I'm looking at that's the first time we saw who the officiating crew was. It was a Big Ten crew. Well, of course, the Big Ten, just like the Mountain West is affiliated with the Big 12, the Big Ten's affiliated with the MAC, and of course, most people in the officiating community remember that we had a fairly sizable issue with MAC officials at a Central Michigan game in Stillwater,
Mm-hmm.
and I look and I said, Dave, there's a there's a guy on this crew, this Big Ten crew that was on our MAC crew back when we got beat by Central Michigan in that game. That Dave and I both knew the rule, and both we kill ourselves all the time that we didn't do something to delay the overtime because we knew they had miscalled it. I keep telling people I thought about going and stripping down at the midfield logo and doing like, snow angels or something until they came and
I'm sure
carted me
glad you
off.
didn't do that.
Yeah, my wife said the same thing. She said, "Oh God, honey, I'm so glad you didn't do that." Anyway, so we see this official, and Dave goes, "Should we tell anybody?" And I said, "It don't matter. I mean, the guy's moved up to the Big Ten. He's on a crew now. I'm sure he." And besides, if anything, he'd figure he'd owed Oklahoma State something if he was on that crew. So we didn't. I think I told Mac Butler, but Matt goes, "How do you remember these things?" I said, "Mac, it's just something that we do." And I said, "He'll be fine." I said, I told Dave upstairs. I said, the guy's moved up. He's fine. I doubt if that referee's moved up much. But getting back to it, let folks know how you progressed. You just got finished saying how many overall years in officiating? 42.
42 total, yeah. I
Yeah.
worked
Tell
my.
people
I
how
worked
you
my.
came up the ranks.
Uh, it took me a while because I live in deep East Texas in Lufkin, and
Hey, God's
it
country.
huh?
God's country.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It is a beautiful day, and unfortunately, the golf course is closed. But anyway, I started. I was on a church men's trip to the Astrodome to watch the Astros play, and two younger guys were sitting in front of me. I say younger; they were like 2 years younger, but they were talking about officiating high school football. And I leaned forward and started listening and asking some questions. And the obvious question to me was, "Hey, why don't you start doing this? I think you'd like it." So that was in 1978, and I bought one of the two guys. His dad had been an official and had retired, and I bought his used high school uniform and started officiating. Worked a couple of junior high games, and my first varsity game was in Kirbyville, Texas. Buna at Kirbyville, to a little school playing a littler school, and I was absolutely scared to death. I was working headlinesman, and just like I say, I was scared, nervous, but everything turned out good. And the next year, they had me referee 3 games, and in my third year, they put the white hat on me, and I wore it all the way through my career.
Wow.
When I made the jump to the Southland Conference from high school, and I had worked a few junior college games, but not many. But I went to the Southland Conference as a referee. Then I went to the WAC as a referee, and then to the Big 12 as a referee. Now, to your listeners, we're not. I know they call us all referees, but there's only one referee, and that's the guy in the white hat.
Right.
And so I moved all the way through with the white hat on, and I was talking after my last game. My first game was in Kirbyville, Texas, and my last game was at Yankee Stadium. So that's not a bad deal.
No, that's not a bad deal at all. So, and I can tell you this, and this is unbiased, folks. Uh, have there been times when Cooper was out on the field with his crew that I said, "Oh God," But hey, then you go back and look at it, and you realize, I see, they saw it and I didn't, and that Dave and I do that all the time. Um, the
Well,
fact
and
you
let me tell you,
guys,
the guys that messed that up, that game you were talking about, they
yeah,
will carry that. Literally, they will carry that to their
yes,
grave. The thing
yes,
that you fear the most in officiating is making a call that changes the outcome of the game, and that you were wrong. I made a call at it was Missouri at Iowa State a long time ago. I think it was in '05 or '06, something like that. That I, to this day, believe was the right call, but the office didn't support me. So in essence, it was wrong, and it changed the outcome of the game. And I will never forget that, ever. And these guys that messed up that game will never forget it.
No, but I can say this from being around for a long time and having your crew work a lot of games that I was broadcasting. That honestly, I never saw a play that I thought that that was that anybody had anything other than the purest, uh, you know, mind about the effort and what they were doing. I truly believe that. I've learned that from going to clinic. Just what you said. Officials want to do the right thing every time. They don't have
Mm-hmm.
a rooting interest. They just want to make the game the best it can be for coaches and players. And then I add this to with you, Cooper, and not all officials are this way, but you have a great presence about you that you can calm coaches down. I've seen you do it, and hey, these guys, it's their livelihood, and yeah, they get crazy. I can't remember players that got tremendously out of line that you weren't able to rein back in. And to me, that is a huge talent that an official has to have the ability to scale people down off the top of the building and get them back to level ground again. And that's one of the things as a referee I've always felt you were really good at is keeping people calm and not letting them go out of control.
And I appreciate you saying that because I worked hard at that, and it's something that young officials need to learn because they go out there with the chip on their shoulder, and I'm the authority, and don't mess with me. And you just can't have that attitude. The coaches are under a lot of stress. This is their job, and their winning and losing is the most important thing at the time. And it's funny how coaches in my pregame meetings with them before the game, they're different than they are when they get on the field. But I will tell you this: the older I got, the calmer they got. And I don't know if they were afraid of me or just respected me or just knew, hey, he's the way he is. He's not going to change. So leave him alone.
I know this that in my opinion, you're going to be sorely missed as a white hat out on the field. I hope we get to continue to cross paths and see each other often because I consider you a great friend and I'm glad you came on today.
Well, Oklahoma State is one of the places people ask me, where are your favorite places to go? Well, Texas A&M jumps up there. Oklahoma State jumps up there. I mean, there's nowhere I didn't like to go. Let me say that. I loved everywhere I went. But the atmosphere, as much as I like going to Texas Tech, that is a brutal atmosphere, and but you go there knowing that, and it's okay.
Yeah.
But Oklahoma State was always a fun place to go, and I always loved coming up there. And hopefully, as an observer, I'll get assigned up there to observe the crew that's working, and then you and I can go have a beer.
Well,
I can drink now.
yeah,
See?
you'll actually during the game, you'll actually be up there closer to because I think the observer sits up there in the booth next to our or close to our radio booth, so you'll be up there closer to Dave and John and those guys. But yeah, it's I've got all kinds of memories of watching you and your crew work, and like I said, Scott's one of those guys that I always, and Kelly too, and then of course Jim. I mean, your crew had about three guys there that I easily am on a first name basis with, and I always
yeah, and I would
that
bet you if you
friendship.
added up the years of experience, our crew was way ahead of everybody else. I had
Yeah.
some strong veterans on that crew.
I'll always remember the only time I've completely aced the officials exam was with you guys as a group project. So that's another highlight for me. Hey
There you go.
Cooper, I hope your family, everybody's okay. It sounds like you're making it
Everybody's
to the
good.
golf course
Everybody's
occasionally.
good. In fact, my
So
daughter from Fort Worth hopefully will she and the grandkids. I haven't seen my grandkids in 2 months, and
Yeah, me
so
either.
I think they're going to try to sneak over here and see Papa and Tati for a few days.
Well, hey, it's great to talk to you.
You too,
All right.
Robert. I look
Take
forward to
care,
seeing you
Cooper.
again. All right,
I
thanks.
do. Same here.
Uh,
All right.
bye bye.
Cooper Castleberry, longtime veteran college and Big 12 referee.